Hi from Nick.
And hi from Martin.
And today we're going to talk about 22 Lingard Street, Reddish. I'm doing more than talking about. We're going to be doing a thorough assessment of the property now that we've got the Viewer feedback. So just to get straight into it, we'll go into condition, then crime, demographics, etc. The first thing I'm going to do is just have a quick look at the estate agency pictures. That gives us overall context. Now, the property itself is probably 1900 to 1915. I don't know if it's been treated with damp proofing. It probably has. It's had those gutters look like they're retrofitted, which is good, and the fancy brickwork and the stone lintels and all of that is good too. So it just means that a certain amount of money is being spent on this property. And here we've got what might be original cornicing. So we're going to need to look at this on the Viewer files. And also we've got pretty much economy laminate flooring. Now, this looks as though it's been stripped out, and we have plasterboard, not plaster and lath, which is good. It's got the dado rail here, which I assume is retrofitted and seems to be in line with the way the door is done. Now, this kitchen has the boiler in here, and it's also got the lavatory, or a lavatory at the back, and it's got a vinyl flooring which looks like laminate, but it's vinyl, and you can tell by the creases on the ground and so on. And it's got a gas stove. If this is going to be rented out, it should really be an electric stove, so it's just an issue to flag up. Again, laminate flooring down here. I mean, not laminate, but vinyl flooring, and a 1970s, yeah, 1970s lavatory here. So yeah, either late 70s, early 80s, but that kind of time. And we go upstairs, so the coving's missing, so that tells me that the ceiling has been replaced with plasterboard, which is good. And we've got some reasonably well done decorating here.
Yep.
Carpet looks so. And the bathroom looks early 80s to me. This scalloped style, I've seen this in several houses, and it was obviously a very popular style, 80s, early 80s. So I guess this property has had a series of renovations. Now, the other thing to point out is it's got this power shower thing. They're okay, they're not great. I don't know whether the hot water is actually from the boiler. I suspect it is. So it's possible that the shower water could come out of the hot water system.
Yeah. Can you open the floor plan?
Yeah, thank you for reminding me. All right, so we got a weird floor plan here. I say it's weird, it's not that uncommon. Now, firstly, 71 square meters, decently large for 2 beds. But you got this issue with the bathroom at the back here, but you do have a bathroom downstairs. So it's kind of compromised, but it's not untypical. So therefore, when we look at this property, I think we've got to really consider it in context with the general housing stock in the area. And we also need to look at how other people in similar houses have dealt with this problem of the bathroom being in the annex here. So that's just a thing. And maybe Martin, while I'm going through other stuff, you can have a look around some floor plans.
Yeah,
let's have a look at some.
That.
Oh, very good. It's because you're proactive, you see. You're proactive, which is great. Anyway, all right, we've got some very old textured ceiling paper. Sorry, I'm just kind of trying to pay attention to this, but this wallpaper is peeling. Now, I don't know whether it's damp from upstairs, so I don't know. Okay, it's upstairs, so maybe it's a roof issue. i.e. some water has somehow got in here and worked its way through, which meant that this has peeled a bit. But I assume that it isn't a serious damp problem. I just think it's a bit of damp. And often with bedrooms, you get condensation building up around here because the rooms aren't ventilated properly. And you can see a bit of that, but the window frames look reasonably well sealed up. All right, more damp. I just don't know where that is. And it's always a problem when I see pictures like that because I just don't know where they are and what the context is. Obviously, this is broken, so we need some new piping and so on. Otherwise, you're going to have issues here. And yes, that looks like it's been damp proofed. So you see these little holes. That means they've had damp proofing stuff injected into the brickwork. Brickwork looks okay. Pointing looks okay. It all looks okay. Kind of. You've got this lean-to shed thing. That's okay. And front yard looks okay. Roof does not look okay.
Yep.
So you got to sort this out because there will be water leaking. Well, maybe not actually. Just looking at it. So what one has to watch out for is water draining down here and then dripping in here and then dripping through. It might be okay, but let's assume that the roof needs a little bit of work. What worries me a touch with this property is that next door has had a new roof. This is probably an original roof and it's probably a bit tired.
I want to say that this property in the both sides of the properties have a new roof, so
yeah, that's a worry. That's a decently new boiler, which is good, and I expect the boiler doesn't need replacing, so that's a plus. And let's have a look.
Yeah, and this property doesn't have EPC.
Right. Okay. I'm trying to play this and it's not playing, so let's just play it with a different thing and open with Windows Media Player. That should do it. And come on. Okay, don't open it with Windows Media, but it may just be such a big file actually. I'll try it again, and this time I'll just wait for it to do its thing, and it should work.
And maybe I can share for the location.
It's okay. Yeah. So one of the issues with any renovation is just how much work do you do? If this was a £95,000 house in Lee, in this condition, really you would just try and preserve it the best you can. Don't bother doing too much work and hope for the best. But if it's a good area that has a certain type of person living there, then they demand a certain degree of renovation. And if you don't achieve that, then it's a problem. So it's all in context, essentially. Now, off the bat, this looks okay, but the issue is the video resolution isn't great, even though the file sizes are huge. But anyway, there it is. So arguably you would say, yeah, you could get away with it, but you've got a lot of issues like very old decor in here, for example. So this would need a new lavatory. But then once you update the lavatory, then you update the pedestal, then you update the tiling, and then you're into tiling, you're into a whole new cloakroom basically, which is just a lot of work. And so, as I said, whenever we look at these things, we have to see them in context and just work out roughly, is it worth it overall? And this is why renovation projects are always a bit of a, not a gamble, but it's a very balanced thing. And it is a gamble actually, because you just don't know what's lurking underneath. So there's that wallpaper that's come off a bit. I don't think it's a serious issue, because if it was, you'd see it. But this is a property which has had a lot of papering over, literally. and I'm not confident that the walls are going to hold out if paper is peeled off. So then you're into the whole thing about, well, do you do you try and get the paper off to get a better finish, but what's under the paper? And I'm kind of erring towards this property just not being touched too much in case something breaks, roughly speaking. What I mean by breaking is if you start peeling off the lining paper, which has probably got like 6 coats of paint on it, then you risk all sorts of trouble with plasterwork and so on. Now,
but the bricks looks nice.
Yeah, it was a fundamentally well-built house in its day, which is good. So the quality of the property is there. It's just, is it worth the risk as ever? So I'm just going to go back here. New carpets. Don't know what to do about the woodwork. I just feel that dark brown woodwork is one of those one-way street situations where if you change the woodwork, if you paint it, you're never going back. So do you paint it to brighten it all up? I would.
Yeah.
But I'm conscious that if it's a wax finish or whatever, it's going to need quite a lot of prep, and then maybe if it's difficult to prep, maybe you just buy new doors. But they are original wooden doors and they're actually quite nice. It's just the issue with renovations, as ever, is it's a compromise.
We already watched this video.
I know. I'm just looking for the electric plugs because I want to see where they are. They didn't show. We don't have a picture of the fuse board, you see, which is an issue. And I just want to see what the deal is with the plugs, where they are. If you see any plugs, holler. There's one there. It's quite low. I think this is original wiring from the 70s. So the property would have had a massive makeover in the 70s. And it's just kind of chugging along ever since. So the question is, where are we at with the risks on this? It's likely you could use the old wiring, but you'd have to get a test done. So in other words, property like this probably has an old fuse board. We don't know. It's a really important question. And I'm kind of annoyed that we don't see that. I'm just going to leaf through the files again, just in case we can see something here. Nope. All right. Okay. In respect to
I'm checking the photos from the real estate.
Okay.
Pictures, and I think I saw one in the fourth photo.
When you say you saw one, do you mean, do you want to share?
Yeah. I will share my screen now.
Thanks.
So here is my screen. So you can see. Here it is. It's not really.
I don't think that's a fuse board. I think that's TV inlet or a broadband inlet.
Yeah, I cannot see what exactly it is.
Yeah, the fuse board's stashed away somewhere and they forgot to have a look.
No, not the fuse board, just the cables, right?
The plug.
If they are enough height. So
yeah, no, this is 70s wiring. I'm pretty confident about that. Yeah.
And I cannot see anywhere like on the walls.
I did see a plug socket somewhere. All right, well, let's move on, and then whilst Martin's doing his thing, I'll do some calculations on renovation cost, and then we can talk about that later.
I'll
do demographics and all of that, and then you do your thing, and then I'll do the location stuff. So, all right, the story of this place is it's fairly low crime. That's good. It's quite center, and I think the attraction for this property is probably location, but Martin will talk about that. demographic, it's on the kind of middle end, so middle, not middle lower, just middle, and it's predominantly English speaking, which is good. So in other words, first language English, that's an important factor. And so I would say overall it's a relatively mixed kind of area, and it is, yeah, demographically just kind of in the middle really. But the question with this property, from what I see, is with the renovations and all of that, is just how does this sit in context with things? So it's just a kind of working street, but the issue is that the prices are getting higher around here. So when you're starting to pay nearly 200,000 for what is basically a compromised terraced house, you've got to have a pretty good reason for it. And the reason would be capital gain and yield. So overall, if I look at the housing stock here, so what I'm interested in is just, we've got the map here and we can see 21% here, which is pretty strong. But the question is, what's the growth around? And the further north you go, the less the growth. And that's probably because it's a less attractive area. You can see higher numbers down here, which is better demographics basically, and areas don't change that much from one decade to the other. So it's generally still very indicative. And there is something odd going on in this little patch though. Something to do with a lot of private rented around here. So that's interesting. There's just a lot of private rented around here in general. So this was probably a relatively poor area. Got a lot of semi-detached, which is really the backbone of this area. And then the poor people are living here in the terraced houses. That's roughly how I'm reading this situation. And for growth, it's doing okay. It's strong, but it's not absolutely ripping, as they say. And it was fairly okay in the last crash. It crashed reasonably hard. I mean, not one of the worst by any means, but it crashed by 16%. And it's only just above the 2007 highs if you adjust for inflation. So what I'm reading with all of this is that this is kind of, these properties are going to go up in value as the property cycle continues, as we go through into the last leg of the property boom, and where other areas get overbought and people are just, well, you know, they're just kind of aiming for properties with compromises. So my feeling overall so far is that nice house, great location, but Martin's going to talk about all of that. But from a growth point of view, I think you could do better in slightly different patches. However, it is so central. So, you know, we got more to the story, and it's over to you to fill out the rest of the story, as it were. And in the meantime, I'll do my my calculations on renovation.
The location is really central. I mean, it's between Manchester and Stockport, but it's just a second. Close it. So it's really, as I said, central. And the property, for example, compared to the other side property, these properties are larger. And here you have a new build around. You have really close to the big supermarket, but it's not bad because it's not really close, so it will not be so noisy. You have a parking on the both sides of the street. You don't have private, but still okay. When you check on the street view, what I want to check, what's important for me, is to check the roof. Locking sometimes, sorry about this. So what I can see is that this roof is changed next door, and next door roof as well is changed. So basically this property have old roof, which you can see. But I don't think so it's a big issue. So because the roof look like flat, but on the photos it doesn't look like that. So I'm not sure that it will have some issue, but maybe it can have in the future. And the cars in 2018 looks like a nice cars. So that shows that the area is nice. And also, yeah, it's really close to supermarket. It's really close to train stop, which will always affect. Like it will always want people to live here because it have everything what you need. You have schools around, you have a supermarket, you have a transport, you have a green space as well. So it's really nice location. So the location is like, to not say perfect, but it's really, really good. When you check, this property doesn't have EPC, but for the risks about the flood risk, there is low risk for surface water on river and the sea, very low risk, and doesn't have risk for reservoir. So that's great. And when you check for coal mining, there is no issue in this Reddish area because it's outside from the polygon where it was coal mining's entrance or development area. And it's far away from it, so it's a safety property. And I find similar property on the same street, same next door. Basically, what they have the same layout as you can see, and they have it basically everything is the same, just they don't have a laboratory and a ground floor. So which in our property that's a benefit, but you need to change that. I mean, you need to upgrade. So when you go for comparables, so what I can show you, I will just zoom in. I find similar properties, but you can see like properties in this area, terrace houses are selling from 2 bedrooms from 170 to 200 is the asking price. So you can see this is the similar property, but just in better condition. You can see the floor plan is not the same, and the 1 bedroom is smaller, but in the square feet is similar because our property I think is around 77 meters square and this is 74. So 3 meters square doesn't change a lot, but better condition is around 200. This is basically similar property 180, and the condition are not the best. This have all the walls need to be stripped out, so this is in the not the best condition. So I think this property wasn't touched in 50-60 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
it's comparable to.
Yeah. Asking price I think is correct. So the question is how much people will want it and how much offers it will have. So for example, this property 170 was the asking price, but this is smaller property.
So the issue here is you can't have that bathroom coming off the master unless you keep that as an ensuite and then somehow squeeze another bathroom into the house somewhere. So can you just show me a couple of floor plans where they've got the bath? Yeah, so that's what we don't want. And then there was one earlier that I saw where they squeezed the bathroom in a different position. Bearing in mind the critical thing is where that staircase is and how that.
So I need to go more to check more about this and find a solution. Basically, what you need to do is like this. So basically, what the best solution. I will just when you check the floor plan, what you need to do is because the bath you cannot make here. So basically, here is not possible to make a bathroom. So you need to keep it like this because you cannot make the only thing what you can make maybe, but that's too much work and it's not worth. So you can move the wall here and make a hole here and change the door here to be and this to be the so basically this blue to be hole.
Yeah, it's such a waste of space there, isn't it?
Yes.
And what about having a small ensuite for bedroom 2? Is there enough space for it, I wonder?
Yeah, it's you can make one because the room you can make here. You can make because the room is 369, so basically you need 140. So it will stay, if you make 140, it will stay 2 meters, let's say, with the wall included. So 2 meters on 3.47. So if you make it here, and you can make it here 150 on 2 meters, let's say. But again, it will be waste of space. But anyway, the people will, because this array is so demand, it's, and plus you have a bathroom downstairs, so young professional.
Yeah, it's just a lack of privacy. But then I suppose if the homeowner's property is at the front, and then the children's property bedroom is at the front and children's bedroom at the back, and then they have the bath, and then you've got the downstairs lavatory for people, then that kind of works. It's a compromise. But then if a lot of the other floor plans along the street are similar, then it's a compromise, I guess, worth making. So I, just looking at the calcs on the renovations, I reckon it's, well, let's touch, when you're ready, let's just do the valuations and then the rental valuation, and we'll do the numbers and add in the renovation cost.
I just want to, and we can do comparables. So we can see on the same street, I can find a property who was rented out, but they don't have a floor plan. Just a second.
Yeah, often rented properties don't have floor plans.
Yeah, this is a long time ago. And now the market is no floor plan.
Yeah, they typically rental properties don't have floor plans.
Yeah, so the rent will be around 900 if you make it nice. So I want to try a similar property.
Yeah, I think with this, it's that old story with the issues on the floor plan. Oh yeah, but that's yeah. Yes, I can see how that would work. So you keep the main bedroom, you keep the ensuite for the main bedroom, you split bedroom 2 a little bit, and you have a shower room in there. But then you have to have 2 windows out in the front to accommodate that. So do we have the 2 windows at the front?
So this is how they did it.
Yeah, but the staircase is in a different position, so it's not relevant. It's a lot of kind of jigging around. Yeah,
I need to check and find them correct.
Okay, should we do some numbers then?
Yeah.
I think the renovation, I've done some calcs on this, and I reckon the renovation would be somewhere around £9,000, but that assumes that you're not really doing anything terribly invasive. You're changing you're painting, decorating throughout, that the walls don't crumble on you, that you're not reorganizing the layout of the property, that you're replacing the lower cloakroom suite, and you're replacing the vinyl, and you're surfacing the kitchen floor properly so the vinyl looks flat and true. So that's the general painting and decorating, and that would come in the region of £10,000. That would be inclusive of VAT. So you're not really doing anything terribly invasive. Now, what about the maximum reasonable offer price for this?
190.
Okay. And what did you say about rent?
9875, let's say.
So that's 5.25 rentable, and it's quite thin.
Yeah.
The issue with this property is the exception. I know it sounds weird, but the issue with the property is its exceptional location. And you may be going, well, how does that work, Nick? Well, the problem is the location is really good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really,
so,
really good. Really close to store, really close to train stop.
Yeah.
Close to school, supermarket, so green space.
It's
perfect.
Yeah. What's the, sorry, I wasn't paying attention. What's the travel time into central Manchester then?
I didn't calculate.
Okay, let me
but
just
it's I'm checking now. It's about
it's about 40 minutes into town.
But it's closer. It's supposed to be closer. It's 25 minutes.
Right. Okay. Is that if you take the
you take
train or something?
First, you take line 42A, and after you change to 203 line.
Right. Okay.
Like you take one train, and after you take other.
All right. Anyway, let's go back to the calcs. So let's score everything. Condition, not great. I'm going to give it a 3.6.
I will give lower just because of the layout. And this is included in the conditions.
Yeah.
3.
So 3.2. Yeah.
Location 4.5.
Area, nice enough area.
4.2.
Yeah, this area is on the change, I think. Crime, fine. Demographics, lower but rising, and I would give it a 3.8.
I think no, I think more. Depends where. In the terrace house, not the best, but in the whole area, it's 4.5.
So what's going on now? We'll talk about this in the final assessment. Capital growth, good, not astonishing, but good relative to the rest of the country for sure. One of the highest in the country. And we know this because we can see here at 98, it's just one of the strongest areas in the country. And what I think is happening is that it's getting overbought a little bit. And these are problem properties.
No,
so
this here Reddish is just because it doesn't have a lot of properties on the market. It doesn't come in this area, and this area is really famous. The market, that's why the property is going up in value, because it's high demand of this. Not a lot of.
I'll give it a 4. Yield,
not the best. 3.
What?
1, 2, something like this. It's really bad.
Very well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So the problem with this property is
the yield.
Well, it's a mixture of things. So the yield is one thing, and the condition is another. It's a bit disappointing, actually. It's annoying because we've had a succession of properties which are just not quite right. Now, the thing with this property is it's worth offering on if you really want to buy around there. You are banking on long-term growth. So in other words, the area will gentrify, to use a phrase. So in other words, the demographic is lifting, that you're prepared to take the risk on the renovation. So you could do a fairly lightweight renovation, but there are lots of fundamentals that just aren't quite right. And sooner or later, they need to be done. So let's say you can get into a 10 grand renovation. But if you really want to do it right, then you've got to get all the plaster work off. You've got to do a new roof. You've got to reconfigure the layout, and then you're there. But to make it worthwhile, that property has to be, post-renovation has to be worth £250,000. So Martin, what's the maximum reasonable values around there?
200, 210.
Yeah, so what that means is you can't justify a massive renovation on the property. So a full renovation will be 30,000 on this. once you get past all of the fixing and the jiggering about and whatever. But if this was a little house up in Lee and it was 110 grand, then you'd get away with just a bit of painting and decorating and hope for the best, because the kitchen's decent, the wiring's probably there, you don't touch too much, you just leave it alone basically, and it'll produce a yield and it'll work. But the downer with this property is that the area is too good. I know that sounds weird, but there it is. It's disappointing because we're getting too many of these ones that have compromises. So, but it's with us to sort this out and just check properties more thoroughly beforehand, before we get to viewing stage. So, but anyway, as you know, we pay for the viewings in the end because we offset it against commission. But it's just, we always like a nice property where, you know, you can get in the ring and make offers on. And this is worth offering if you have confidence in long-term growth.
Yeah.
And you're looking for a property in an absolutely prime, convenient location. But
Yeah.
right
Yeah, the
now,
location.
just a bit on the risky side, really. Anyway, there it is. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.